Hello, this is Steven L. Yes, we're back with another Batman movie review. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be reviewing what's considered an absolute masterpiece, not only in the Batman film series, but superhero films in general. 2008's The Dark Knight. Now, there's going to be a lot of background info to get to, so let's just pick up where we left off. In 2005, Batman Begins was released and was a very good success. This, of course, means a sequel was announced. Christopher Nolan was given the creative freedom to do something different this time around. And basically, there was a great marketing campaign for this film. More so than I think Batman 89 did to hype for that film. And more than Batman Returns was hyping for its film. Now, there was also this, and one of the most unique things about this film is the casting for the Joker. What really took the internet by storm, I think what took the fandom by storm at the time, was when Christopher Nolan casted Heath Ledger to play the Joker. Now, Heath Ledger at the time, of course, had many great performances under his belt, but he wasn't really that hugely well known. I think his greatest performance before this, many people said before this, his greatest performance was Brokeback Mountain. I've seen the film slightly. I haven't fully watched it, and I have watched it in a long time, but it was basically about some gay cowboys, if from what I recall correctly. But this angered people because he was known for really teen movies. I remember him in 10 Things I Hate About You. Love that film. I remember Mum had me watch Night Tales God knows how many times growing up. But basically, people were concerned that he was casted in the role of the Joker, because he just didn't seem the type. But Christopher Nolan really wanted to use him. In fact, Heath Ledger actually was originally considered for the role of Batman for Batman Begins, but he turned it down. Or not turned it down, but Christopher Nolan thought he wasn't right, but wanted to use the actor later. It's also been said that he was apparently rumored to be cast as Robin way back in Batman Forever. And then again, so was Christian Bale. Well, basically, Heath Ledger brought his definitely stance to the role of the Joker. Really got into character. And the marketing for this film was just hyped. Really, really hyped. And what I really liked, there was this Gotham Tonight sort of mini-series things. You can see them on YouTube, these videos, and they feel like interviews, but it was more hyping up the film. The film also takes its cues from two Batman storylines. One, The Long Halloween, and that you can see its influence definitely here. And another thing, The Killing Joke. With that, but there was also some cues from other action films. How Heat surprisingly plays an influence in this film. With also themes of escalation and chaos, Christopher Nolan really, really, really wanted to make this bigger and better, because it's really hard for sequels to be considered better than the original. Only a few have that distinction, and this one's considered one of them. So, what do I feel about this film? Do I feel that it is is it still a masterpiece? Well, absolutely. Well, absolutely. But I'll get more into that later review in the wrap-up section. But before that, let's get into the cast. Now, arguably, it's no Batman. Christian Bale is the true title of the film. The main character. He's back as Batman, and I think he's got a lot to work with here. As, you know, he's dealing with a threat he can't understand. And the fact that, you know, he's seeing someone who could take the mantle of being Gotham's protector and finally give it up. That's actually a unique, interesting story, like him seeing finally someone to take on the mantle as he leaves. Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon, again, a lot to do in the role, and he gets a unique character storyline that I really like. This film also gives us Harvey Dent and Two-Face, played by Aaron Eckhart. Boy, do I love him as Harvey. For me, this is Harvey Dent. The district attorney. He's charming, charisma, but determined to clean up the streets through the legal system. He is often nicknamed Gotham's White Knight. He got the nickname Two-Face because he used to work in internal affairs, where the cops obviously had a bad rep for him because he put a lot of crooked cops away. And of course he played, and this is no spoiler, but he becomes Two-Face in the third act of the film. People complain, I definitely know some people have complained about he's becomes Two-Face late, but for me, the fact that in many media we always see Harvey Dent as Two-Face, for me it is a refreshing take to spend more time with Harvey than it was with Two-Face. Do I want to see more Two-Face? Yes, but for me, that's not bad. But then, of course, we get more characters from the previous film come back. We have, of course, Michael Caine back as Alfred. We have Lucius Fox, played by Morgan Freeman. Great in their roles and great in progressing the story. And of course, another character we get is actually recasted. Rachel Dawes is here. This time played by, let's get the cast up, if I recall correctly, her name, the actress's name, was Maggie Gyllenhaal. I'm probably butchering her name, but honestly, despite the actress's name, if you know I butchered it, I feel she gives a far superior performance as this Rachel. She's, you know, she can definitely hold her own, for me, more so than anyone. She is, but I also feel that Rachel shares very much more chemistry with Dent. And I'll be blunt, I like how throughout the film you can clearly see that the character, honestly, you know, is more drawn to Dent. And for me, that's what I really like about, because she's stuck between two men she really likes. But for me, there was such an instant spark in chemistry with Dent that I ever felt with Batman and Bruce, so that was interesting. Also, we get a few mobsters in this film. We have Salvatore Moroney, portrayed by Eric Roberts. What's interesting, what they do here, instead of Moroney being the head of his own crime family, he is the successor to Carmine Falcone's crime family. And he's teamed up with a few mobsters. One is the Chechen, played by Richie Costa. He's not called that, but I always assumed he was a Russian gangster. We also here have the character of Gamble, portrayed by Michael J. White. This actor has actually been in a few superhero things. He was in Arrow as Bronze Tiger, and he was in Spawn. And basically, he's the more brash, flashy gangster type. And we all know how those would normally end. And then we have Lau, portrayed by Chin Hain as an Asian gangster. The idea is basically the mobs formed a massive syndicate to keep the organization together with the current crackdown, not with new law enforcement, not with Dent and with Batman. Because they're trying to keep what's left of organized crime alive, they essentially team up with the Joker. Arguably, truly, this movie's biggest star was this incarnation of the Joker. Nothing like a Joker had been seen before this, and it's definitely influenced other characters. Heath Ledger truly gave a fantastic performance. No Joker's ever looked like this. First off, he doesn't have bleach white skin. He wears makeup. He has long green hair. He looks more like a rock star hobo type, and it has these cuts that helps indicate his smile. Heath Ledger owned this role of the Joker. He took inspiration clearly from The Killing Joke and the Joker's very first appearance way back in 1940. This Joker resembles more of the playing card, the wild and unpredictable, and less of the homicidal clown comedian. And he's surprisingly, throughout this film, referred to as a terrorist, and in many ways he is. Again, this Joker stole the show, and Heath Ledger, how he got into the role. This Joker was also influenced by a character from A Clockwork Orange. He was influenced by a tiger. I heard a story that Heath Ledger, he locked himself in a room, and for, I think it was either a month, a week, in a hotel room, to get into the mindset of this character. He really took the role seriously. And on set, many people talk just how great performance he got from Bale, who still praises his performance to this day. Gary Oldman praises his performance to this day. Aaron Eckhart praises his performance to this day. Many actors who were on this film and got to be in a scene with the Joker praise what he brought to the table. Now, there was a thing... Now, before we get further into the rest of the cast, there's something we need to talk about, and that's Ledger. Ledger, unfortunately, before the film was released, Ledger unfortunately passed away from an accidental drug overdose. Accidental because he was taking medication and switched up. There's been, rumors and that's not true. From what I've been able to find out and what the cast has said, it was an accidental overdose, medication. That can happen. And unfortunately, what's even sadder is that he died at the age of 28. So he was 27 when he was filming this. The sad thing is, he gave such a great performance. The sad fact is not only a great talent died, or that at a young age, but just how many more great, nuanced, and fantastic performances we could have gotten out of Ledger. is the real tragedy here. We truly lost a great talent, but the good news is he gave us one of the greatest performances of the Joker, and arguably the greatest villain performance ever. And for a while, I would be, but however, I've said to many of my friends, I think the Riddler in the Batman just as surpasses it. We'll talk about that when we get into that film. But let's get to the rest of the cast, otherwise we'll be doing this all day. We have the character of Loeb back, and his is the last time we'll see him in the role, and his death, and he unfortunately does die. It's something that needs to be said. We also have more of the GCPD. We have the character of Wirtz, Michael Wirtz, portrayed by Ron Dean, and he's basically one of Gordon's cops. Another more of Gordon's cops that I really liked was Detective Stevens, played by Keith Zebecker, probably butchering that name. Now, I really like him. Despite he doesn't have much screen time. But why in hell is he not called Harvey Bullock? He's basically, for me, Harvey Bullock in everything but name. We also have the cop character of Ramirez, who I'm honestly surprised isn't Romain Montoya, portrayed by Monique Gabriel. And basically, these are three Gordon's cops that he very much trusts the most throughout the film, and part of his MCU squad, as Gordon is basically head of this MCU major crimes unit, and basically they are in work with the Batman. And surprisingly, just like Gordon, some of these cops actually embrace Batman and work willingly with him. I feel there might have been a story beat where you could see some cops as not fully trusting him, but that's something for another day. We also have a news anchor by the name of Mike Angle, portrayed by Anthony Michael Hall. I'm surprised he's not Jack Ryder, honestly, because that would fit maybe with the comics. But basically, if you ever saw the Gotham Tonight, he's very critical of the Batman and he feels like Vigilante should take the law into his own hands. He doesn't really get that much. He only appears in like news reels throughout the film, but definitely makes an impression. We also here have actor Nestor Carbonell portraying Mayor Anthony Garcia, and basically he's the new mayor. He's like Dent, an idealist, not corrupt, a politician, but one of the few honest ones. We also have another minor character here of Coleman Reese, portrayed by Joshua Harto. And basically, he plays a minor role in the third act and is basically a member of Wayne Enterprises. We also get the return of the Scarecrow, still portrayed by Cillian Murphy. Again, like I said in Batman Begins, the Scarecrow does return in the next two sequels, but he mostly comes as cameos. Despite I feel they can be underwhelming, I love when he does pop up in these cameos. Interesting, when we meet him at the beginning of The Dark Knight, he's basically become a drug dealer and sells drugs, which are fed with fear toxin. I don't know, that's a great story that I wish could be used in another medium, because I just feel there's a great story to be told. I really wish he could wear more of a traditional Scarecrow get-up, because I was hinting what he did, but honestly, you know, it goes to show that just how the Gotham underworld is now beginning to work with freaks, kind of hinting what they did in the Long Halloween. Anyway, with the cast out of the way, let's actually get into reviewing this film, and there's a lot to talk about. So many scenes and dialogues. It's going to be a very long review, and I'm really excited for it. We open this film up with a bank heist. A bunch of bank robbers wearing clown masks with a well-coordinated attack on a bank. I just love the scene here. You see these two guys in a nearby window firing a cable rope and slide to the top. Then you see a car come up and pick a third man to get in the car, and he puts on his clown mask. And the clown mask that this specific thug is wearing is the one that resembled what the Joker wore back in the old Adam West show, and in fact in the Joker's very first appearance on that show. And it's revealed that they're going to rob a bank, and they've been hired by this new guy called the Joker. The Joker was name dropped way back in the first Dark Knight film. And just to point out, this is the first time a Batman film is called something other than Batman. It's called The Dark Knight, showing that this is really different. Anyway, they make their way to the bank, where the three make their way inside. They take out the guard, and they give all the hostages a grenade, taking it out. And the two guys on top of the bank, one immediately hacks into the security and disables it, so it can't, ping out a distress call. But suddenly, that thug is immediately killed by his partner that was with him, and he makes his way from the roof into the bank vault and begins to make his way in. With the three inside taking control of the place, the bank manager immediately gets out a shotgun and shoots one of them. The two go to hide, and I like how the scene is full of action and suspense, clearly taking a lot of its influence from Heat. And eventually these two eventually do take out the bank manager. When he says you know who you're stealing from, you and your friends are dead, that raised an antenna when I was watching. I mean, yeah, you're robbing a bank, obviously people aren't going to be pleased, but something's clearly off. Eventually, when they do wound the bank manager, as he's shot and falls to the ground, but not dead, as he's still alive, we'll find out later at the end of this scene, one of the masked clownmen runs into the vault, and he says to the other that the vault has been wired with so many vaults. What kind of bank does this? The clown reveals it's a mob bank. Yeah, these guys, they're robbing from the mob. And the bank has clearly been laundering money. As they make their way, and as he opens, the other thug immediately shoots the other one. With a famous line, he told me something similar. So basically, these guys are not only robbing, but they're clearly instructed to whack a member once they've completed their task. They eventually get all the money, put it in the bags, take it, but one of the thugs is really smart, as he's caught on, maybe this guy's going to kill me as soon as we load the cash. But he says to him, no, I'm here to kill the bus driver. The thug is confused, bus driver, and then a wall comes with all this debris, basically killing this thug on impact. The other guy comes out, and they start loading up all the cash, where he just then turns around and kills the thug who brought, the bus in. He then basically leaves with all this money. This was a well-coordinated robbery, well-tacked, well-orchestrated, and just as he's about to leave, the bank manager slightly recovers and says, basically, mate, as soon as you deliver your money to your boss, he's just going to kill you. The criminals in this town, they no longer have a code. There's no more honor, respect. What do you believe in? He then shoves essentially a grenade in his mouth and basically says to him, because this thug never spoke until that bus scene, where he says, I killed the bus driver, and basically says, I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you, and as he takes off the mask, we are revealed to Joker, a stranger, and then walks away. This was a great introduction to this Joker. We see how ruthless he is, how he can improvise, how tactical genius he is, and also deranged. He's robbing from the mob, and he gets into a bus, drives away, and ends up in this line of buses. Now, people, I definitely know I'm watching, a friend of mine questioned, wait, how come Doug didn't notice that this guy wasn't the Joker? I see he was just standing out in the open with the mask down near his leg, and he didn't put it on until the car rolls up, or how come there happens to be that convenient space for the bus to fit in this line and just drive off? My explanation, as I told him, it's a comic book film. Stretch your imagination to disbelief. It was a great opening, and this really hooks you into the film. I love how the opening of the film is setting up the antagonist of the film, and setting up what kind of threat he's going to be. We then go to nighttime, where, there's a news report with the mayor being interviewed by Mike Angle, the news reporter. Then there's the bat signal up in the air, and a police is smiling, criminals are scared, and it's basically revealed that it's at MCU, Gordon's own special unit. He's a lieutenant, and he runs a whole slew of cops. We're introduced to two, Ramirez and Woods. And we find out through a line of dialogue that these two have been suspected of possibly being corrupt. But we'll find out later at the end of the film. It turns out what Gordon does every night, he turns it on to remind the criminals and the people that Batman's out there. Ramirez says, well, why hasn't he shown up? Turns out that from Gordon, Batman rarely does. And what he's doing right now? Well, he's busy. We then cut to a parking garage, where basically a mobster by the name of the Cheech meets with another gang, and then the Cheech has brought dogs to obviously wary of Batman's presence. I like how he's very nervous of Batman, and is, obviously the criminals are scared of Batman. He's meeting up with the Scarecrow. It's revealed that the Scarecrow, after the events of Batman Begins, has become a notorious drug dealer, selling his fear toxin out as a sort of designer drug to the mob, as Batman's put most of the drug dealers out of business, and now the mob is desperate, to make some money. And basically, it's not going so well. customers are now turning into frightened maniacs, and the Scarecrow is taking absolute delight out of this. Now, I've said in Batman Begins, I feel that the Scarecrow can kind of come up as underwhelming, especially turning into these cameos, but despite that, Cillian Murphy steals the scene he's in as the Scarecrow. And just as, this meeting, the dogs start barking, realizing that Batman's here, but then they're attacked not by Batman, but by 3 Batmen, all dressed up like him and firing guns. This is clearly an influence from the Sons of Batman, who in the Batman Returns story, a comic book series by Frank Miller, Batman basically, during the story, eventually, there's this gang formed in his honor to take down crime. And it's clearly the reference to that. And basically, it turns into a firefight. Scarecrow's men and the mob are shooting at these Batmen. Then the Batmobile turns up, and all the criminals are firing at the Batmobile. But then Batman reveals himself, knocks out a fake Batman, saves one from being attacked by dogs, and takes on the remaining gangsters. The Cheetah manages to escape, and the Scarecrow quickly gets into his car and drives off, but Batman stops him. And this is a really great scene. It reintroduces Batman, and it also ties up the loose ends from Batman Begins. I would have loved Scarecrow to be more of a presence in these films rather than just cameos, but, it ties up really one loose end, Scarecrow, to then really take on the new threat. He then drives away. I love the scene when he ties up one of the fake Batman and tells, "I better not find you out here again." And basically saying, well, we're trying to help. What gives you the right to do this between you and me? And he goes, "I'm not wearing hockey pads," and drives off in his Tumbler. We then see Gordon and Ramirez at the recent bank robbery. And they do realize it is Joker. It's clearly Joker's on their radar, but he's not the real big threat, as they are more interested with the mob. Batman then turns up, and then Gordon asks Ramirez to give them some space, and Ramirez does. He gets Batman up to speed. The Joker hides some small timers to, help rob this bank, and it's been revealed it is a mob bank. And they know this because it turns out Batman and Gordon have been doing a plan recently where they have these bills laced with radiated bills to locate the whereabouts of where the mob has been laundering its money. And it turns out they've been laundering it into several banks. They found a whole bunch of cash, and they're ready to move in. But Gordon then says, well, the new DA wants to get on this. Batman says, "Do you trust him?" Gordon says, "It's hard to keep him out. I hear he's as stubborn as you are." The usual. Gordon looks away, then looks back. Batman disappeared. It's something that Batman constantly does throughout these films. I also like this one line where they're basically saying they have to, when they've taken down the mob, and now this Joker guy, Batman then says, "One man or the entire mob, he can wait." Little did he know, he should have taken the time to take down the Joker first before going after the mob. But basically, people underestimate the Joker. They view him just as a whack job loose cannon, not worthy of their time right now, as there's more important things to fry. This is foreshadowed not with what Batman and Gordon are saying, but with the mobsters, gangsters also saying, how he's not a problem, he's just a nobody. But by the end of this film, he will be somebody and will wreak destruction on Gotham that no one has ever seen before. We then get to another scene where, Alfred goes, basically Bruce Wayne's been living in a penthouse in the city. Alfred goes to deliver him food, but he's not there. So he goes to a closed-off Wayne Enterprise construction site where it turns out Batman has been using it as his makeshift Batcave. Alfred makes his way in, and Bruce says basically he needs a new suit. He's getting himself stitched up, and he's talking about how, these were copycats were out last night, and he's worried about, how this may have, his inspiration might have gone wrong. But Alfred says, well, things are improving. Look at the new district attorney. And the district attorney is Harvey Dent, recently elected to clean up the streets of Gotham. People have proclaiming him the White Knight. Batman doesn't know whether to fully trust him. Alfred says why. It's because he's with his social circle, and it's basically implying that Harvey and Rachel have gotten very close. And definitely Harvey Dent is very fond of Rachel, and definitely really, really likes her. But there's one line where Alfred wonders, does Batman have limits? And will you realize when you will reach your limit? So I do like that little line that he says. We then go to a current court case where Harvey Dent and his team are about to prosecute Sal Moroney, the current head of the Falcone crime family. This is clearly a reference to the classic Harvey Dent origin, when he's in a courtroom with Sal Moroney, and Sal Moroney throws acid in his face. Now, he doesn't do that in the film. Sal Moroney does not throw acid in his face, or doesn't even become really the proper catalyst to what makes him become Two-Face. So they're going in a very different direction here. The court case goes awry as the star witness, who was a mobster, was supposed to reveal that Sal Moroney is the head of the Falcone crime family, but instead he reveals that Sal Moroney is really the fall guy. He is really the head of the Falcone of the organization, and tries to assassinate Harvey Dent. But Harvey Dent foils him, takes his gun, and pulls it apart, saying to Moroney, "Really, if you're gonna kill a public servant, I recommend you buy American," revealing it's Chinese, and this will be tied into something later in the film. Basically, it's revealed that they can't get Moroney, and basically he's going to walk. As Dent and Rachel are walking away, he says he's going to meet the head of major crimes. Rachel says, "Oh, Gordon, he's a friend. Try to be nice." Eventually, Gordon and Dent meet, basically to be acquainted, and basically, obviously, to try and work together. Dent finds out that the radiated bills and says, "Have you had help?" Gordon says, "I'm in layouts for various agencies," but Dent's not buying this. Let's save it. I want to meet him. He knows about the Batman and clearly wants to work with him. Gordon says the official policy is to arrest Batman on sight, but Dent knows otherwise. He knows what they're trying to do. He's locked up most of the money launderers in town, and they're after the last game, and they're targeting their last sources of revenue. You want to count him in? Gordon is hesitant to let him in. True, I think Gordon knows that Dent is a good, obviously, man, but he sees Dent as an idealist. He even calls him out, saying, he doesn't get points for being a political idealist. He has to make the best with what he has. Dent doesn't really trust Gordon because he's working with cops that he's investigated during his times in internal affairs. So yeah, he used to work with the IA, the organization that investigates crooked cops. These exist everywhere. Now, I've always had a problem with how they were always represented, as I always considered the bad guys, the rat squad, but the cops don't understand. You need an organization that is impartial and is to operate, don't judge people whether they're good or bad or not. They are to investigate and lock them up, but they've always been portrayed as immediately the bad guys. But eventually they do come to an understanding, as Gordon does give them the names of the banks, and Dent is willing to get him his warrants, but he wants his trust to be kept in the loop. And I like how Gordon says, "Oh, don't have to sell me. I know you're Gotham's White Knight." And then he says the line, "I heard they have a different name for me down at MCU." This is obviously referring to his Two-Face name, and we'll find out later in the film how he, later it'll be revealed to him. And basically, a sort of uneasy partnership is formed with Gordon and Dent, but they will eventually grow to really respect and work together really well with one another throughout the film. We then go to Wayne Enterprises, where there is a board meeting with Lau, who is a Chinese businessman, trying to do some business with the Wayne Enterprises brand company. And it goes like how usual, with Bruce pretending to be asleep, obviously not interested. We get introduced to Coleman Reese, who is basically looking through the finances, and Fox says look through again, to see how this trust fund is, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it's been revealed that this was all a ploy by Bruce, who just wanted to get a closer look at Lau's books. It's clearly hinting that Lau may not be on the up and up, and believes that Lau may be, doing some illegal business. And this will tie in later throughout the film. Bruce then goes to tells Fox, how he needs a new suit, something to be more flexible, mobile, and turn his head. This is obviously because throughout the previous Batman suits, they could never turn their head. And this was obviously a line after that. So that's what I really like about this scene. And this would set up for the new Batman costume that he will get later on in the film. We then go to a restaurant where Dent and Rachel are. And Bruce comes in with a beautiful lady who is a ballerina. Obviously playing up the persona, and basically Bruce is doing this so he could just get closer to Dent to see what kind of person he is. And he sees throughout the dinner that Dent supports Batman. Despite him being a vigilante, he knows this is a person standing up for what's right. And during this scene, obviously Bruce is a little bit jealous of how Rachel is with Harvey, as again, Bruce is in love with Rachel, but sees that Dent and Rachel are forming a very close relationship. And basically, Bruce is sold that this is Gotham's future. Someone to take on the mantle. As even Dent has said, Batman's clearly not going to do this forever, and it's clearly Batman's looking for someone to take on the mantle. He's convinced by this, and he wants to throw Dent a fundraiser, despite saying Dent that he's not up for re-election. But Bruce says, with my powers, you won't need another cent. He's convinced, and I like how this is how Dent convinces, because he's convinced Bruce that he's Gotham's future and supports and believes in the Batman. This is where I think Batman learned to put his faith in Dent. The next scene is all the gangsters are meeting. Gamble, Cheech, and Sal Moroney, along with other prominent members. I'm guessing really high echelon or very prominent players are all meeting in a kitchen at a high-end restaurant where TV comes in. It's turned on and it's Lau. Lau is revealed to be the last money launderer in town, and they review some of the events. First off, it's clear that the mob is on the run. They are getting crushed. Batman on the streets, Dent in the courts, and clearly by the new wave of honest policemen, especially Gordon, within the legal system. They are banding together now, because they've never felt this type of pressure before. There's a line obviously referring to Joker robbing their bank, where he robbed $68 million, and basically the mob is, doesn't give a damn about him. He's a nobody, a whack job. But they're worried now. Their money's being tracked. And just as this is happening, this is being intercut with the current raid, with Gordon and his cops from the MCU, raiding the banks. But as they get there, it's basically revealed that, the money's been taken. Lau has taken a precaution, moving all the deposits to one secure location, but the rest of the mob can't know except for him, because if the police can get leverage on one of them, the whole money could be at stake. And to make sure they don't get leverage on him, he is currently on his way to Hong Kong, as the Chinese do not have no jurisdiction to bring him back. So basically, it's been revealed that the reason they know this is because Sal Moroney has well-played sources both within Dent's office and the police, but I'm guessing it's really more the police than Dent, and basically, they feel that this plan will work. But then you hear someone say, ha, 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 in a sarcastic way, and in comes the Joker, decked out in the image god, and immediately Heath Ledger will steal the scene immediately, even with those laughs, basically saying how it's a bad joke. This is then followed by one of the mobsters getting angry, especially Gamble, saying, tell me why I shouldn't have my guy pull your head off. And he says, how about a magic trick? I'm going to make this pencil disappear. A bodyguard comes up to escort Joker away, but he just grabs his head, puts it down on the table, and implies the pencil went straight into his eye, and he goes, ta-da! I genuinely cracked up laughing at that, even though it was dark. It was funny as hell. And he instantly got my attention. He then sits and he turns to one of the mobsters saying, oh, by the way, the suit, it wasn't cheap. You want to know, you bought it, implying he stole that bank's money to get him a fancy suit, and obviously for more gear and all that. He basically has this conversation with the mob, basically saying how the cops and lawyers back in the old days wouldn't cross any of you. And what's happening now? Your balls are dropped off? You see, when a guy like me, and a guy interrupts him saying, you mean freak? And I like he's taken aback by, almost offended by that, but you can clearly tell he almost really wants to rip that guy's head off for calling him that, but he has to compose himself, and basically he's telling that, let's be real here. You're all scared. Why you're doing your businesses out in the day? You're scared to go out at night? We know the reason why. The Batman. Batman has basically changed how Gotham views you. And now Dent's the beginning. And as your mate's plan here, mate, Dent may have jurisdiction, but not Batman. He will find him and make him squeal. And I know the squealers when I see them. Obviously, this is not exactly how he says it, but it's similar to that. And Joker steals the scene, and he's making sense to the mob. And one says, well, what do you propose? And he goes, well, it's simple. We kill the Batman, and everyone laughs at him. And it's like, are you crazy? I'm not. No, I'm not. And if we don't deal with this now, and of course he pokes fun at Gamble and saying, if we don't deal with this now, Gamble won't have a nickel for his grandma, and Gamble can't take it. He's clearly a hothead, flashy, views the Joker doesn't respect him, and says enough from, basically, getting on everyone's nerves. But there's a scene, but also, like how Sal Moroney said when Joker said we must kill the Batman, and Sal says, if it's so simple, why haven't you done it already? And I love the Joker has a really great line here. If you're good at something, never do it for free. And they ask, well, what's his price to get rid of Batman? And he says, half. And everyone's laughing, thinking, again, he's crazy. Basically, Joker basically saying, I will do this in exchange for half of the underworld's money. So basically $500 million. And he has a point. They need to deal with this now or they'll have nothing left. Of course, he goes about in the wrong way, insults Gamble. Gamble can't take it and said enough from the clown. Just as he's about to attack Joker, Joker gets up, opening his trench coat and revealing a whole bunch of grenades attached to a string, and basically threatens to pull it and have everyone blow up. They realize he's scared, he means business. They all stand up scared. And our Gamble says, you think you can steal from us and walk away? Yeah. Again, Joker says some pretty great lines that I cracked up laughing. The pencil trick was one, and this was another. Gamble then puts the word out. He wants 500 grand for Joker dead or $1 million alive, so he can teach him some manners first. And I like how Joker just doesn't give him the time of day and basically goes, yeah, sure. Turns to the rest and says, give me a call when we want to start taking things a little more seriously. Gets out a Joker playing card and says, here's my card. Gives it to the mob. Walks out the back door. In a like he's relaxed, like, he's not scared about this, and goes out the door. What I love about Joker, he comes out of nowhere. And basically, this is, in many ways, him going to the mob and the mob considering his deal. Little did they know, this is the beginning of the end for them. A kind of changing of the guard. The mob is on their way out, and these more psychos are coming in. Very much prevalent with not only Batman stories, but comic book stories in general. And Heath Ledger as Joker steals the scene. I'm gripped to every word he's in. He's crazy. He's chaos incarnate, but he makes sense. And what's worse, the mob is considering his words and realize he might have a point. And again, this is, for me, Joker immediately stole the scene here. True, the bank robbery scene introduced him, but he steals the show. And I'm really excited to see more of Joker. And of course, we also know with his interactions with Gamble in the scene, things are not going to go well for not only Gamble, but also Joker's foreshadowed Lau's fate. We then followed that up with it's nighttime, and Dent has turned on the bat signal. And Batman suddenly appears. And Gordon quickly comes, and basically, this whole scene is an homage to the Long Halloween comic story where when the comic, Batman, Gordon, and Dent form a pact to take down, the mob. Here, it's an homage to that, but it's also progressing the story. As Gordon has revealed there was nothing in the vault, and Dent reveals that Lau was in Hong Kong. Dent is mad at Gordon for not telling him, about Lau, how he said he could take in his passport. Dent is angry. Gordon says, they knew we were coming. As soon as your office got involved, everything went uphill. Dent gets angry because he's saying, you think my people ratted this whole thing out? You literally have two crooked cops, or a bunch of cops that are crooked in your department. So I like how these two are clearly just angry with each other, and Batman is just standing there, just watching all this. I love the camera work it's going around these three. I like how it's not just camera's just not rolling just there and looking at these three. It's going around, and it's really getting you immersed in the argument here. But with that, however, they realize they need Lau back in order for this order for them to make a conviction. Batman says he'll get Lau, but can Dent be able to get him to talk? Dent doesn't even hesitate, says he'll get him to sing. But when he turns around saying how we're going to get him back anyway, Batman's disappeared. Dent looks at Gordon, and Gordon just basically goes, yeah, he does that. The next scene is basically how Batman's forming his plan to get to Lau. He goes to Fox and basically wants Fox to go to Hong Kong to tell Lau in person that the deal is off, instead of over phone call. They then go down to one of Fox's many hidden labs. Yeah, I guess you could call it that. And basically, he's getting his new equipment. He's getting stuff for his new bat suit, which will make him faster, more flexible, agile. But the downside is it makes him more vulnerable to knives and gunfire. There's also a little line how he says, how will it hold up against dogs? He goes, well, basically he doesn't know what kind of dog, but he did say it will do fine against cats. I think this is meant to be a little Easter egg or foreshadowing the next character in the next film, but I don't know. I think it was just more of a comedy relief thing. Anyway, but they do come up with a plan. Bruce and Fox come up with a plan of hiring a CIA program, Skyhook, that was designed to get their people out of very tight spaces. Bruce then goes to Alfred to map out everything, but they need a cover as to why Bruce has suddenly left town. They come up with one. With his playboy persona, what happens is basically it's how he's taking all these ballerina girls on a trip to cover. And unfortunately, this means Dent cannot take Rachel to the ballet. And basically we see the scene how he's out in the water. He then jumps onto a plane, and Alfred has to look after all these hot girls. I'm sure Alfred's going to have a real fun time with that. Anyway, if you're wondering what happened to Gamble, well, Gamble is playing pool until two of his men come in saying that people have come in claiming that they've killed the Joker and they've brought the body. They then bring Joker's lifeless body in, and Gamble is happy with the results, about to pay the three killers for bringing him the dead Joker. Joker suddenly rises, kills two of Gamble's henchmen, and holds Gamble at knife point. And the three henchmen behind immediately get out their guns and hold at gunpoint the remaining of Gamble's crew that are in the room. And this is where Heath Ledger does his iconic "how I got these scars" stories. He does almost three throughout the film, and basically this is keeping in line with the character of his past being a mystery, as he's telling these stories of how he supposedly got these scars. They're both completely different, but I think the first one was really great and really captivated. And basically, what I love about it is you don't know entirely sure if the Joker's telling the truth, or is the whole story a lie, or is it completely true, or is some of the story half true, half false. Again, he's kind of mocking his victims before he's about to kill them. And this story that he tells is how, when he was younger, his father was a heavy drinker. He came home one night, drunk than usual. The mother gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He takes out the mother, grabs the knife, comes to him saying, "Why so serious?" He sticks the blade in his mouth and says, "Let's put a smile on that face." This is just gripping stuff. The music especially is heightening just how uncomfortable this story is. And he ends it with a little joke. He just turns to one of the goons and just says, "Oh, why so serious?" And then you hear this loud music, and it's implying how he was killing Gamble by shoving the knife in him, and Gamble falls. Now, the actor who played Gamble said that there was a scene that was in this where with the knife scene was slightly cut, as it was meant to imply he got scarred on the side of his face, and then he would fall and get his hand on his side of the face and fall to the ground instead of killing. But due to the editing, it implies that he killed Gamble. And this shows Joker's ruthlessness, but also kind of comedic way in how he goes into an environment that is completely against him. He has little to no people. Well, he does have little people, but doesn't have that much in terms of odds on his side. But he turns it into his favor, and that's what I love about it. He then basically says, "Oh, they've got a lot of plans and they need a new member, but they would love to have new members, but they only got one spot open right now." He then breaks a pool cube and says, "Let's have tryouts." Leaves one on the ground and says, "Boys, make it fast." Basically implying these three have to fight to the death. The survivor will not only be alive, but it will now be a part of his crew. This is just dark stuff, but God, is it captivating. And for me, this is probably the best how I got these scar stories. I'll explain another one, but for me, this one's the best one. Anyway, we go to Hong Kong, and this is the first time in a Batman film we are out really of Bruce's environment more so. True, in the first one we go on foreign, but this one is how Batman is actually going to be in suit out of Gotham. That's actually rare, as Batman's always in Gotham. True, maybe Bruce might have been out of Gotham, but he's rarely, not as Batman, but I'll get to it later. Anyway, Fox goes to Lau's building. He drops a phone in at the security desk, and goes to Lau saying how the deal is off. He then goes to meet up with Bruce, who's pretending to be sightseeing, and reveals that the phone is a sonar, which will play a part in the climax of the film. And basically, well, Bruce gets into action. It's nighttime and he's in his new suit. I love the new suit. It is more flexible, it's just better looking, and honestly, I just like how it is just, again, real, but it is an awesome looking suit. And I think, and many fans always preferred this one over the first one. I didn't mind the first one. I actually liked the first one, but I can definitely agree the second one was definitely an improvement. Anyway, Batman then gets into action. He bursts into Lau's place, takes out the goons, manages to get his hands on Lau, and manages to escape with a plane, courtesy of Skyhook, and basically gets Lau out of Hong Kong. The next scene is in daylight, and Lau is tied up outside of Gordon's MCU building and is basically delivered to Gordon, Dent, and Rachel. Rachel interrogates Lau, and Lau is willing to give up his accomplices in exchange for immunity from prosecution and go back to Hong Kong, but he will probably keep the money. Dent realizes that he could use this as a RICO case and convict a large group of the mob, as they are part of an ongoing criminal enterprise, how they're all laundering this money. However, they know they can't send Lau to a normal prison in fear he'll probably be killed there, so they have no choice but to keep him in the Gordon's holding cells at MCU. Dent doesn't trust Lau being there, but there's little alternative. The next scene, Gordon and all the Gotham City police are rounding up all the mob. It's also in this scene where Chinch agrees that, they need to hire the Clown. They will get word out and have the Clown be hired to take down Batman, as they're seeing on the news with Lau back in town. This is going to blow up in their face. But Moroney is still hesitant to bring Joker in, but they have little to no choice. Anyway, like I said, they round up all the mob. There's then this court scene where over 500 gangsters are being charged with racketeering laws, the RICO laws. If you don't know what RICO is, well, it was a racketeering law passed in 1970, but wasn't used primarily until the 1980s, where they could convict a large assortment of mobsters under the RICO laws. Basically, if you're found convicted, expect to at least over 40 years, you can get up to 100, virtually a life sentence. This was a way of really targeting not just one guy, but a whole group, and this ultimately what led to the mob's downfall in the late 80s and the 90s. But anyway, Dent sees this as a good thing. He knows that the head guys can make bail, but mid-level guys can't, and they can't be off the streets long enough to not make money, so they can cut plea deals and bargain and testify against the higher-ups. This will essentially bring down the mob. And the mayor is hearing this, and he, agrees with Dent, and, but he does know that But he does know this is all going to be on Dent. And if they get anything on him, all these criminals are back on the street. So literally all the pressure is on Dent, but he seems confident and isn't fazed by this, showing that, he knows the risk, but this is an opportunity of a lifetime to really get rid of organized crime in the city once and for all. But just as this scene, out of nowhere, a dead body on a rope, dressed in a bat costume, slams against the mayor's window. Now, when I watched this for the first time in a hotel room, this was a good jump scare, and it really got me. And I just really like how, that the film can surprise you. The body is then lowered with a card on the body, a Joker card saying with a real Batman standing up. Bruce is in his penthouse preparing Dent's fundraiser. Alfred thinks he's probably just to impress Rachel, but Bruce says no, this is actually for Dent. And then on the news, they reveal essentially the Joker who's filmed torturing the individual that was in the Batman costume, and basically saying how Batman must turn himself in, unmask, or people will die starting tonight. And I love how the camera, it's clearly implied that it's handheld. And from what I heard, Ledger actually was hand-holding the camera the whole time. So this was really done perfectly and really just shows this is a really great intimidation tactic. Again, Joker's origin is completely a mystery, but I like to think, and many fans have subscribed to this, that the Joker is actually a war veteran. And this can actually make sense, how he can plan things, he's capable with firearms and tacticians. I like to think so. And this might explain why, later in the film, it's revealed the Joker doesn't have a backstory. There's no matches on prints, DNA. He's a complete enigma, and I like to think of that the most likely thing to do. Anyway, we do go to Bruce's penthouse, where Dent and Rachel have attended. Rachel walks off, and Dent is, nervous. He's never been really much for public or mingling with the high society, only for Alfred to come and offer him a drink. I love the interaction between Dent and Alfred instantly, as Dent says, "You're Alfred, right? Rachel talks about you all the time." And I don't know, for me, in the comic, I don't think Alfred and Dent have ever interacted at all. Maybe briefly, but never in a very fun way. Anyway, Bruce comes to the party in his usual playboy persona with 3 girls on his arms, and basically he goes and says, "Where's Dent, the man of the hour?" He's doing a few jokes, but then he gets serious and says, "This is Gotham's bright future. This is the face of Gotham." Basically, as much as I like how you can tell Bruce is being genuine serious and really praising Dent here. And basically, you can really tell that Bruce has found his successor to take on the mantle of, fighting crime in Gotham, where he can finally, put the Batman thing to rest. He then goes outside, and Rachel comes out thinking, "Oh, I know we're trying to make fun of Dent. I know you're better." But Bruce says, "No, I meant every word." And he says, "Rachel, it's coming. Dent is now Gotham's hero. Batman is coming to an end." I like how, now people might find, why is Bruce such in a rush to hang up the mantle? For me, it's because he's inspired people, and he's inspired people like Dent, and this Dent is naturally next in line to help protect Gotham. The Batman is no longer needed. It was needed for a purpose. It can now be handed on to Dent. But hey, the Joker still got some plans up his sleeve. We go back to the MCU where Gordon has been found that the card that was found on the dead body has 3 sets of DNA: the Judge, Loeb, and Dent. And they immediately rushed to get them 3 into safety. Gordon and a crew go to Loeb, 2 cops go to get the Judge, and Dent is oblivious to this and is just mostly talking to Rachel and basically implying, of possible marriage, and saying, "Do you have an answer?" Rachel says, "Not, I don't have an answer." But things are going bad, as Loeb is killed courtesy of a poisoned drink that he had. The Judge is blown up in a pretty funny way. As she's getting to the car, she was given an envelope for her where to go. She opens it and it says "up," and literally the car explodes up. The jokes might be subtle, but at least the Joker still has his sense of humor. Anyway, Bruce comes in and knocks Dent out from behind when he wasn't looking, and basically locks him up in the closet. Rachel's like, "What are you doing?" And he just basically says, "They're coming for him." The elevator opens up, revealing Joker and his crew. Bruce tells Rachel to stay hidden, and Bruce basically makes his way, knocking out one thug, and basically, going into a panic room to change into Batman. Ledger steals the scene again, like always. I'm going to say this a lot, but he really does. In the party room, with all the thugs in tow, he mingles with the guests, and, does all his Joker shenanigans. But when he's about to go and attack someone, who apparently reminds him of his father, Rachel tells him to stop. Joker sees her and knows that this is Harvey's girl. Goes up to her and does another "You want to know how I got these scars" story. Now, again, I feel the first one is more impactful, but I can't deny this one isn't a good one as well. And he tells basically how he used to have a wife who was beautiful just like you. And one day, she got in deep with loan sharks and was badly beaten. They didn't have money for surgery, and she just wanted her to smile again, as she didn't care about how she looked. So he gets a razor and cuts himself to see the smile. Only this backfires, as she can't stand the sight of him and leaves him. And now, in his mind, he sees the funny side. That's why he's always smiling. Again, I think this is probably the least likely origin. The first one, in my opinion, had some credibility, though I think some of the details might have been off. But this definitely was false. But you can really, again, he does commit to the story. Again, there's even a thing how he's purposely making this up as mocking the villain monologue origin thing. Again, I like that little theory too. But anyway, Rachel kicks him away, and just when he's about to go by saying, "You like to fight now, I like that," and like a Batman comes out saying, "Well then you're gonna love me." And this is how Batman properly first proper in-person encounter with the Joker. He takes out most of Joker's crew, non-lethally of course, but then Joker gets his hands on Rachel and holds her at gunpoint. Batman tells her, to drop the gun, let her go. And I like how Joker just shoots out the window and literally lets Rachel go. I really like that because, first off, he did tell her to let her go. He wasn't really that specific. And this gives Joker a chance to run away, and Batman dives in to save her. And he does. And she asks, is Dent okay? He says Dent's okay. The next scene is Gordon and one of his top cops, Steve, basically saying how the prosecution is now over, as no one's really going to stand up and testify. And one of the cops think, oh, Dent's just going to run away. But then Dent comes in and says, where do you keep your trash? And basically, they're going to get Lau on the witness stand, and basically still make sure that he will be, cooperating, or he gets sent to what they call county, the local prison. The next scene is in essentially the makeshift Batcave I already mentioned earlier in the film. But Bruce doesn't get what's going on. Doing stuff like this is not going to give the mob its money back. He knew the mob was not going to go down without a fight, but this has crossed the line. He's crossed the line. They've crossed the line. And Alpha points out, you crossed the line first. You've damaged them operation-wise so badly, you drove them to desperation, and for desperation, they turn to a man they don't fully understand. This then gets into a monologue with Alfred explaining to Bruce of a past where they had this bandit who was robbing stuff, but find out what he was doing, he was actually just throwing them away. Bruce says, well, why did he steal? It's like he thought it was good sport. Some men aren't looking for anything logical like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some just want to watch the world burn. And this is where Bruce is beginning to realize this is a villain he can't understand. Again, Scarecrow and the mob are powered by greed. Ra's al Ghul had a mission. Joker, completely random, complete chaos. Although we find out not really random as how he's planned things out, but still, this is a person he just can't understand. He hasn't met someone like Joker before. And that's how should Joker always be. A villain, when Batman first encounters, just can't understand or his motivations or what's he after. And I really like that. And this makes Bruce scared. And I think out of all the villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery, Joker definitely scares Batman the most. The next scene is basically they get a call on the radio saying how you'll find Harvey Dent in this location. Gordon and a few of his cops go to the location to find 2 dead bodies. They then read on the tags, it is basically a Richard Dent and a Patrick Harvey. Harvey Dent. Batman then does his detective work. This is probably the first time in the series where Batman gets to do some real detective work. Again, he does that, but I don't think he's used quite as effectively in most of the films. This was the first time I think it was done the most effectively, but it would be even better in the Batman. Anyway, he then takes a bullet that was in concrete and does some configurations and finds the bullet has a fingerprint and basically, uses it to get an ID to go to a location. But he has to do this fast because at the crime scene, they found a paper revealing Joker's next target. He literally posted the mayor's obituary and basically saying how the mayor's going to die at this point today. The mayor's the next target. Also in this scene, Coleman Reese basically goes to Lucius and tries to blackmail him as he's uncovered that Bruce is Batman. But Lucius manages to talk him out of it by saying, how he's a vigilante who beats people with his bare hands and your plan is to blackmail him? I think this scares him out of possibly blackmailing him. Now, there's an interesting fact about Coleman Reese. From what I found out, they actually did plan to use the Riddler, and the idea was to use Coleman Reese to be this Riddler for these films. Again, it's an interesting thing, and again, Coleman Reese will play a bit of a role later on. Anyway, Bruce makes his way to a location whilst Loeb's funeral is going on in the streets and the mayor's giving a speech. He goes through the building and finds men tied up. These are police officers as their guns and uniforms were taken. He then looks out through a window and machine gun is fired at him. This is during this high intense scene as these cops during the eulogy give like a gun salute. And then they immediately turn around to the mayor. And one of these cops is the Joker with no face paint. This is Ledger, and this, God, he's surprisingly scary even without the makeup. And they begin to and immediately go to shoot at the mayor. Gordon manages to think on his feet, runs, pushes the mayor out of the way, and gets shot instead. And the mayor is quickly taken away. Most of the Joker's crew immediately run for it, but one of the henchmen is shot in the leg. Dent goes to interrogate this henchman, asking, where Joker is, only to find that his name tag says Rachel Dawes, and Dent realizes that this was no accident. This cop was meant to get shot, and that Rachel's next on the hit list. Later that night, Ramirez and Steve go to pay their respects to Gordon's wife and kid, basically revealing Gordon's dead, and she's blaming Batman for bringing this chaos on all of them. Batman is also there, paying his respects to Gordon's family too, and I like how the son sees Batman in the rafters looking down at the Gordon family. The police then go to turn on the bat signal to have him come, but Steve knows he's not going to come as he doesn't want to talk to them. I think out of all the cops, Steve probably respects Batman the most, second only to Gordon. And he knows that Batman never really trusted these guys. It was always Gordon he trusted, and the one he probably wanted to work with the most. And with Gordon, there's no real reason he's going to be in much contact with these guys. But he knows he's not going to come, and prays whoever he does want to talk to. Later that night, at a nightclub, Sal Moroney's in along with a girlfriend. They're having fun, and Batman shows up and beats a whole slew of thugs on the railway. This reminds me of a scene that will happen in the Batman later down the line. But in my opinion, although the next fight is better, I can't deny this definitely laid the groundwork, and it's definitely a fun contrast. It's a bright nightclub, colourful lights. It's very much in stark contrast, and I don't know if it was meant to be an homage to Batman Forever with the neon lights, but I really like it. The music, a bit generic, but doesn't kill the mood for me, and actually improves it. But basically, there's three scenes that are intercut throughout this whole thing. Rachel's at MCU going through the paperwork, only to get called by Dent, and basically Dent tells Rachel she's not safe there, and reveals the bombshell. Gordon's basically dead. Joker's named you next. You need to get out. Is there a safe place? She says, yeah, Bruce is the safest place in the city. Dent is hesitant as we find out he's a little bit jealous, or maybe finds him too much of a bit of a jerk, but he does. But when Rachel says it's the safest place in the city, he says, okay, go there. Don't tell anyone you're there. I'll meet you there soon. This is intercut with Dent interrogating the Joker thug. And this is meant to imply an homage to a split personality, because Dent's not insane in this film. He doesn't have that split personality that's known for the character in the comics, but this is where he's showing his dark side, showing that even the brightest of men have a dark side, and when you threaten your loved ones, all bets are off. And basically what he's doing throughout this whole thing, he will be flipping a coin with the roulette, a gun roulette, to get the thug to talk. And this is also intercut with Batman interrogating Salvatore Moroney. At first, it's not going to go his way, as Moroney says, from this height, a fall wouldn't kill me. It's like, oh, I'm counting on it. So he drops in, lands on the ground, implying how he's broken his legs badly, for Batman to come down, well, actually more fractured, not broken, comes down and basically says in a loud voice, where is he? And I just love the line delivery there. It's almost like a roar, and it's really intimidating. But Sal says, he just found us. We don't know where he is. Batman said, well, he must have friends. And Moroney gives another great line. Friends? Have you met this guy? Someone's got to know where he is, but Moroney drops a bombshell on him. No one's going to tell you anything. We're wise to your act now. You've got rules. Joker's got none. No one's going to cross them for you. This is where the mob finally have realized Batman, although they're scared of him, he has a code. Basically, they're scared of Batman, but they're terrified of Joker. And this is basically an homage to The Killing Joke, where I think it was in that comic, or maybe animated film, I don't know which one was from which, but I'm pretty sure it was from the comic, where basically where he goes to interrogate a mobster, they say, well, we're scared of you, we're terrified of him. Basically, people are more scared of Joker than Batman. And Batman knows that, he's not going to get anything out of Moroney. The Moroney says, you want to take this guy down, there's only one way. Take off the mask, let him come find you, or how about have more people get killed before you make up your mind. Batman then leaves. During Dent's whole interrogation with the thug, it's not going his way. He flips the coin again, only for it to be catched mid-air by Batman. And he's saying, the thug's name is Schiff Thomas, a paranoid schizophrenic, former inmate at Arkham. The kind of guys that Joker attracts. Do you really expect to learn anything from him? He then walks away. Dent then goes and says, they killed Gordon, Rachel's next. But Batman says, you're the symbol of hope I could never be. You are literally the best hope for Gotham. But if everyone sees this, everything you've worked for gets undone. The criminals are released on the streets, and Gordon would have died for nothing. I think during this scene, when Gordon is dead, I think this is where, Dent realizes that Gordon was one of the true honest cops, and he could see why Batman trusted him, and I think he even learned to trust him and even respect him. There was definitely a love and respect between the two characters, despite there was definitely some animosity because of their different professions. But Batman agrees to give in to Joker's demands and basically turn himself in. This is the only way. Joker has brought Batman to the breaking point. Now, I think this might have been too much rushed, but for me, he's lost a friend. Innocents of dying, it's the only way. But I think Gordon's death and his scare tactics are ineffective for a Joker's location. He realizes this is the only way. He has to turn himself in. Though Dent is very much against it, saying you can't turn yourself in. The next scene is Bruce at his penthouse talking to Rachel, yet again. And Rachel basically, saying, how he got a call from Dent saying Batman's going to turn himself in. Do you really think this is going to work? And basically, Bruce says, yeah, but also that, will you be waiting for me, so we could finally be together. Now, throughout the film, I definitely knew Rachel was torn between the two, but I definitely felt that I think scenes like this is why she would soon make her choice. Really, as it's clear, as I think she began to really feel more feelings for Dent than Bruce here. And the next scene is Bruce and Alfred burning up everything, closing down shop, making sure nothing can be linked to Rachel or Fox. He's going down, but he's not going to take those two with him. He's going to take the fall alone. The next scene is a press conference. Dent is basically telling the public, to assure them we are trying to get things done, but he also reveals that Batman has agreed to turn himself in, and he's trying to dissuade the public to not, support, Joker. But the public is. And I like how Dent is making a few good points. We're asking him to turn himself in because we're scared, not because he's breaking the law. We've been fine for him doing this for some time now. And he does say one day Batman will need to answer for all the laws he's broken, but to us, not to a madman. I think this is what Joker is great. He can turn the public against Batman. They're doing it because they've never seen someone like this before. Maybe Scarecrow or Rasp, but God, no one like Joker. But Dent is realizing he's failing to get people on his side. So when he steps off the podium after saying bring the Batman into custody, he then announces on live television, I'm Batman, and they arrest him. Bruce is in the audience, but he doesn't go to tell how Dent's wrong, how he's Batman, and Rachel's angry how Bruce did nothing. This is where I think these characters realize that Gotham needs Batman, whether the public knows it or not, or realizes it or not. And especially when Rachel goes to Alfred saying this, being angry at the events, Alfred, states this for a fact, and she gives him a letter and says to give it to Bruce, when the time, to give this to Bruce when you get around to it. Rachel then goes to the MCU, where Dent is basically being placed into a convoy to go to lockup. There's a huge SWAT presence, and one SWAT all covered in a mask that we can't really see to be the driver. And basically, this is Dent's plan. He's going to use himself as bait, so the Joker will attack him out in the open, and Batman will take him down. Rachel's hesitant, thinking, this is not going to work, but Dent is still going through with it. And he says, heads, I go through with it, flips the coin to her, and also gets a kiss. And basically she's saying, you can't leave this up to chance. He's like, I'm not. She looks at the coin and realizes it's a 2 double head. It was never a random coin. And she realized, make your own luck. No, Dent's always cheated luck. And I think this is where she really began to really fall more for Dent than Bruce here. Well, actually a bit before that, but definitely I think this is where it cemented who she would choose. Later on the convoy, as they're going down into the tunnels, in that famous bat chase in the first film, of the Dark Knight trilogy, with the tumblers, down in the lower grounds. that's where the convoy is making its way down. We see that Joker's truck earlier during the scene, shoots a cop, and he and his crew are down in the tunnel. And it's a really great scene because first of all, the editing is great. There's no music, and you can keep focus on the action here as they're attacking the main convoy. They get rid of a SWAT truck, 3 cars, and of course there is a garbage truck also helping. And I like how the Joker is definitely... First, he uses his traditional gun that he used in the robbery of the bank. He then uses a shotgun to try and blast the convoy, but it's not working. So what does he do? He begins to use a bazooka. Then the tumbler comes in and takes out the garage truck. Joker sees this, and I clearly think Joker realized that, Dent's not Batman. No way. Later on, the bazooka or rocket launcher actually, ends up destroying the tumbler. And you think, that this is Batman's main pride and joy gone. The police convoy is on its own now, there's only Dent and 3 cops in this one thing and have to make their way to topside and get some air support. But the tumbler, well, there's still some life in it. Batman ejects and the tumbler becomes a Batpod, essentially this version of the Batcycle. And I really like the design here. It's basically the 2 front wheels with the guns in the front, and Batman is basically making his way to catch up with the convoy. Joker makes his way following the convoy, but he manages to take out the helicopter by having 2 thugs just placed at the right time to take it down. How did he know this? It's a comic book film. Stretch your suspension of disbelief, especially for the next scene, the next thing that's about to happen. The Batpod makes its way and basically, tries. It's the classic, joust scene, or where they try to run into each other. He's going to run into Joker's truck, but then it does a slide underturn underneath the truck, with firing cables at the bottom, going around some poles, and then shoots it down to the ground, resulting in a backflip that lands on its head. This is a really great stunt, and again, I like how there's little to no music. It was used briefly, just when you think our hero's, about to get out of it, but no. Anyway, it's flipped upside down, the truck convoy stops, and the masked SWAT guy opens the door and is about to get out. Joker makes his way out, and I like how he has a machine gun, and when he falls over, it fires off. It's a great comedy moment, but it's so true in character. He then basically sees the Batpod coming towards him. He begins firing the gun, taking down a few cars, obviously killing a whole bunch of innocent civilians, and basically is, wanting the Batpod to kill him, run him down. And I like how he's crazy enough to do this. He's like, hit me, hit me. But the Batpod just swirls around, falls, and Batman just hits into the truck, getting knocked out. The Joker feels a little bit disappointed, but he gets his knife out and basically is about to go and kill him. I like how the thug attempts to take Batman's mask off, but it just electrocutes him. And Joker just finds it hilarious, stomps on the thug, spits in his face, laughs, but goes back to Batman and about to stab him, only to get a shotgun pointed to him at neck point. And I like how Joker's like, can you just give me a minute? Again, keeping in character, he's pushed to the ground, shotgun up in his face, and it's revealed that this SWAT was Gordon. He never died. You wonder, maybe, this might be a bit of a plot point, but I don't care. This was, for me, a great subversion of expectation, because I actually believed they actually killed Gordon off. But no, he's alive. Turns out he just faked his own death to protect his family, and obviously to work below the radar. I like to think Steve definitely knew Gordon was really, was really alive and not dead, because he was the first on the scene when Gordon was shot. No way he would not have known. But Gordon goes to Dent, opens up his convoy. Dent is surprised to see Gordon alive, and basically does a mocking joke of, you play things really close to the chest. But Gordon goes, Dent, we got him. Dent gets his usual press conference praising for him taking down the Joker, but Dent is modest. He gives the true credit to the police, saying Gotham's finest were the true heroes today. They then say, well, you and your office been working with the Batman all along. He says, no, but I did trust him to do one thing tonight that was saving my ass. Ramirez then comes and takes Dent away to put in a cop car, and basically, so he can go and see Rachel, as Dent says, I have a pretty upset girlfriend. And I like how Dent, in the beginning of the film, he was didn't really trust Ramirez because of her criminal ties, but I guess this is where he got won over, well, where this is where won him over. Anyway, we then go back to MCU. Joker's locked up, but Gordon comes storming in, telling everyone to stay away from him as he doesn't want anything for his mob lawyers to use. The mayor comes in, surprised to see Gordon alive, but asks, what do we have here? And Gordon says honestly, one of the most scariest things. Nothing. There's no matches on prints, DNA, the clothing is custom made, no labels, the only thing we can find in his pockets are knives and lint. He's got no name or no other known alias. And that's the scary thing. You can see Joker in the cell, but know that there's no history there. There's no real identity connected to him. It's scary not knowing, but knowing something exists. That's scary. But anyway, the mayor says, go home, get some rest, you're going to need it. Tomorrow you're taking on the big job, and rewards Lieutenant Gordon as the new police commissioner. This was long-deserved win. I love how the heroes have won. Joker's taken down, Dent saved, and Gordon's now commissioner. Think changes are real for the city. And I like how everyone's clapping for Gordon's promotion. Joker joins in on the clap. This was completely improvised by Ledger, and I just love how everyone's just turning, around and the mood goes down. And this was the actor's genuine reaction to seeing this, and God, Ledger, again, stealing the scene. But his best scene is about to come up. As Gordon's gone home to reunite with his wife and kid, kid be back with them, he gets a call, and he runs back to MCU. Dent has been kidnapped. He never made it home last night, and they believe Joker's behind it. He's in interrogation, and I like how all the lights are out. He then goes and Gordon tries to interrogate Joker. And how, Joker's, saying, I had nothing to do with it, I was right here. Who did you leave him with? Your people? Or were they Moroney's? Gordon realizes he's not going to get anything with Joker, so he leaves saying, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. Joker just goes mockingly, the good cup, bad cup routine. Not exactly. Gordon then leaves the interrogation room, the lights turn on, and there's Batman, and they have... This is a great scene, and one of the most infamous moments of the film. And when they were filming, this was the first scene that both Ledger and Christian Bale ever did together. And it's a really great scene, and I like how to this day, Bale always praised Ledger's performance in this scene. This was a great interrogation scene. The suspense, the music is used very subtly and rarely in this scene. Anyway, it's also an homage to The Killing Joke, where Batman goes to visit Joker in the asylum, or Arkham, for a talk. And I like how Joker's even though he's powerless, he's still in control. And he's got nothing to lose. And I like how he does say some things, first off, he does say how, yes, the mob has hired him so they can get rid of him, so they can get back to the way things were. But Joker's basically saying, I know the truth. There's no going back. You've changed things. Forever. Things are never going to go back to the way they used to be. But another thing is, during the further interrogation scene, Batman says, you're just a criminal who kills for money. Why do you want me dead? All that type of thing. Joker reveals how, he doesn't want to kill as he completes him. He's his whole reason for being. But he also says, don't talk like a regular cop because you're not one, even if you like to be. How they will use you, but when you're no longer useful, they'll cast you out. He's saying he's not crazy. He's just ahead of the curve. He knows, how these civilized people will eat each other. This is a philosophy of his, that when we become chaos, our true selves come out. And I just love how Joker's still in control of this scene. But Batman, is had enough. He begins to do some brutal beatdowns on him, trying to get him to talk. Only for Joker to basically say, well, how Joker's trying to get Batman to break his one rule, and is trying to reveals to him that he has not much time, he has to save one of them. Batman's taken back. Them? Yeah, them. Dent was not the only one captured. Rachel was too. This is where Batman goes ballistic. He locks the door. Gordon's trying to open it and beats Joker, basically asking, where are they? Eventually getting the information out of him, really revealing 2 locations. Batman bursts out, and when Gordon says, which one are you going after? He says he's going after Rachel. Gordon and all his men get in their cop cars, to get Dent, and they go to these said locations that the Joker spilled. We then see both Dent and Rachel tied up in chairs in 2 separate locations with a whole bunch of barrels and a timer. It's implying a bomb will go off if they don't get rescued in time. And I like how the suspense scene is building and building. As these two are on their way, a few important things happen. First, Joker back at MCU. He manages to trick a cop into fighting him, only to essentially get his hands on a bit of glass that was broken by Batman to hold him at that glass point. And basically, he's doing this so he can have a phone call. It's revealed that a henchman was brought in earlier, and how he's is in pain and he passes out. Eventually, they get an ambulance in and find out some surgery was recently done. Joker goes to answer the phone, and basically turns out that this guy is a human bomb, causing a massive explosion, knocking out a whole bunch of cops. Also, it's revealed that during this scene where Batman and Gordon are trying to get to these 2 locations, because Rachel and Dent are communicating over a speakerphone, and Rachel basically says yes to Dent's proposal earlier. Basically, Rachel chooses Dent over Bruce, and as much as it's harsh, I think she made the right call. For me, Bruce can never not be Batman, at least, and I don't think Rachel would have been the perfect fit for him as a reason to settle down. Anyway, also whilst this is happening, Dent falls over and a bunch of oil spills, covering half of his face. Batman manages to run into a building thinking he's going to meet Rachel, but when he opens, he sees Dent. The Joker on purposely gave him the wrong locations, as he knows that Batman clearly, has a bit of a relationship with Rachel. But Dent is like, no, why are you here? Why are you coming for me? Batman gets Dent out, just as Gordon and his men end up at the same location. And I like how Rachel's last words were, "Don't worry, Harvey, someone's going to..." BAM! Bombs go off. She is killed. And in the explosion, as Batman's got Dent out, fire catches to half of Dent's face and begins to burn it. Now, they killed off a love interest. True, this was a trope that's kind of getting done to death almost too much. But none in comic book films. For me, The Dark Knight was the first one to do that. And really effectively, as the scenes that followed are really impactful. As when the explosion happens, Gordon is about to run into the burning building, only for his men to pull him away. And this is where the tone really not changes, but also the atmosphere. Joker's escaped from the MCU and has taken Lau with him. Dent is in the hospital with half his face burnt. Batman is defeated, finding that the love of his life is dead, but he recovers from Rachel's location Harvey's coin, which half of it was covered or badly marked. Alfred opens the envelope he was given, and he reads how she says, "I'm going to marry Harvey Dent. I choose Dent." And Alfred is brought to tears almost by this. And I like how when Dent begins to wake up, he finds the coin half scarred. He just screams, although you can't hear the scream as it's muted out, and rips the thing that was covering up half his face. And I like how, everyone's sombered by this. Bruce is mourning Rachel's death, how he let the psychopath burn half of Harvey's face. But Bruce says, how Dent can never know that he and Rachel were going to end up together, though Alfred unfortunately knows the real truth. And Alfred does say, you really thought that this would not inspire some casualties? You spit in the face of Gotham's criminals, basically saying how Batman caused the escalation. This is probably meant to be Nolan's thinking of Batman's the kind of little bit of the cause for the villains coming out. Again, this has been debated whether Batman is more harm than good. Again, it's up to you what you personally think. I don't really think so. I think, this was always bound to happen. They just these were already messed up people. They were going to do this anyway. They just use Batman as an excuse to make themselves feel better. Also in this scene, as this is happening on the news, the news anchor Mike Angle says he's got a guy by the name of Coleman Reese to come on to reveal Batman's identity on live television whereas he's saying because, you know, he's been waiting for Batman to do the right thing, but now he's taking matters into his own hands. Gordon is in the hospital, visiting Dent in the hospital, you know, to find out, you know, the cops, you know, who dropped him off, asking for help, but Dent, angry, and and in his anger, shows Gordon his disfigurement, but also taking on the name Two-Face, as he's asking, when I was at Internal Affairs, what did you guys used to call me? He said, Two-Face, Harvey Two-Face. He shows his half-burnt face. God, is this gnarly. It is visually unpleasant. People say it might be pushing too far of unrealism, but I just love the burnt texture, and most of this was CGI. But it looks passable. Sure, you can notice with the eye if you really look up close, but God, it is a gnarly effect. And this is Dent being angry at his disfigurement, the death of his girl, and he blames Gordon for all this. Gordon then leaves, where he runs into Sal Moroney, who he's had enough of this. This is too crazy even for him, so he gives up Joker's location. Joker's called a meeting. We go to then a nearby boat where all the mob's money is being held there. Cheech comes in, sees Joker and Lau, who's tied up at the top of this giant cash stack. Very much a reference to The Long Halloween, as in that scene, in that comic, Batman and Dent make their way to a mobster's stash in a warehouse, which is owned by Carmine Falcone, and basically in that scene they burn the cash. And you can see where I'm going with this. Well, Joker basically, you know, says he's a man of his word, but he wants to know where Moroney is. His men come in, they begin to pour gasoline all over the cash and then burn it. Joker has effectively wiped out the mob's control. All their money, gone. So Joker has done what Dent, Batman, and Gordon could never do. Wipe out the mob. They then take Cheech to be basically implied to be chopped up and fed to his dogs. Essentially, he's taking control of all of organized crime and all their henchmen, and he's going to turn the city into his vision. Well, this is also intercut with Gordon and his men prepping to storm the place to get Lau alive, and Joker will go either way. Whilst the news of Coleman Reese about to reveal Batman's identity on air continues. But then Joker makes a call to Mike Angle tonight, to Gotham, the news program, and it's said on live television, how, you know, to stop these proceedings, he says, basically it's an ultimatum. Coleman Reese isn't dead in 60 minutes. I blow up a hospital. Gordon then changes his plan. He gets all his units to mobilize the hospitals and get them out, while he and a select group of cops will go to get Reese before he's killed. Bruce is seeing this all on TV, and he quickly leaves. Though he doesn't go dressed as Batman, he goes as Bruce, gets into his Lamborghini, and basically chases to Coleman Reese. While this is happening in the chaos, as they do rescue Coleman Reese with Batman's help, this is intercut at the hospital where Joker is there. He shoots one of the guards and basically goes to talk to Dent. And this is where Joker twists Batman, Two-Face's mind and gets him on his side, revealing how, you know, nothing was personal what happened. He was just a dog let off a leash. The real people to blame are the schemers. Introduce chaos and everything will be clear. And another thing about chaos, it's fair. I like how he just gets a gun, puts it in Dent's hand, and points it at his head. Now, first, Dent is resistant to Joker, but Joker's getting in his head, especially with the tragedy he's just been through. So Dent gets out his coin and shows the good side, saying he'll live, the bad side saying you'll die, and Joker's just interested. You know, he's really enjoying this. He flips the coin, and basically implied it came up heads. Joker gets to leave. And again, Batman rescues Coleman Reese. No, Bruce rescues Coleman Reese, but still in disguise. Coleman definitely knows Bruce saved him, and I think that's what caused him to, you know, not rat out Bruce's identity. Obviously, as a thank you for basically stepping in to save his life. This is then followed by, you know, Joker leaving the hospital, takes a bus with a whole bunch of hostages and patients, and I like how as he's blowing up, the place is going, the building's a quarter blown up. But then Joker turns around, sees what's happening, you know, not all of it's blown up, so keeps pressing the button, then it goes up. For what I've been told, this was improvised. The bombs didn't go off, and this was Heath Ledger in character, upset what was happening, but he still kept it in character and kept going. Now, I highly doubt, out of all, you can ask me what he was improvising, I'll believe it. But this, I don't know. This seems way too coincidental to be improvised. In my opinion, it wasn't. But you know, I could understand why people would believe it. And if I am proven wrong, if someone says, mate, it actually did happen, well, I take it back. Because it is a great improvisation. But Joker gets away, the hospital's blown up, he's accomplished his things and takes a whole bunch of hostages with him. Anyway, this whole bunch of scenes are now intercut here. One is Two-Face going on a bit of a killing spree. First he goes to Wirtz's bar and basically to find out, you know, the other crooked cop in Gordon's unit that it was responsible for the incident. He says only Moroney would know, so Dent goes to flip his coin, comes up bad side, kills Wirtz, then he goes to Sal Moroney. And at first Moroney is gonna live after he gives up the next name, which is Ramirez. But then he flips again, but it comes up bad side for the driver. So he shoots the driver and the car rolls off, and basically it's implied everyone's killed in the car. Except for Two-Face, of course. And then Two-Face goes to Ramirez and basically forces her at gunpoint to call up Gordon's wife to get the kids out of there. And basically, it is also implied that she got killed. Two-Face has kidnapped Gordon and his kids. This is intercut with, you know, Joker, you know, kind of declaring the city under his law. And this is how, but Dent at this time, or Gordon at this time, is, you know, getting a ferry to get civilians off an island and also a whole bunch of convicts that he and Dent have locked up, thinking they will play a part in Joker's plan. But he also reveals how they still haven't found Dent, but how long can they keep this quiet? This is also intercut with Bruce, with Lucius's help, set up a large sonar throughout the whole city to track down Joker. Lucius thinks this is going too far, it's invading privacy. This was clearly a commentary on, you know, the government doing too much surveillance due to terrorism. Again, I didn't notice that at the time, but when I came to do this review, I was watching other reviews for this movie, and this came up. So I'm like, oh, okay. And basically, Lucius says this is going too far, but he'll gladly do this. But as long as this isn't Wayne Enterprises, I won't be. And basically, what they're doing, they're tracking down where the Joker is. And basically, they track Joker down to a nearby building, which is overlooking these ferries as they, you know, further and further into the, you know, whatever water it is, I'm guessing the ocean. But the boats suddenly stop. It turns out these boats have been rigged with explosives down the bottom, and they've each been handed a detonator. Joker then talks on the mics, on the speakers on the boats, revealing they're going to be part of an experiment. By the time a certain time comes up, the boat will blow up. If anyone tries to get off their boat, they also blow up. The only way they're going to get out of this is by using the detonators. After all, they've been handed the detonator to the other boat. Another boat to blow it up. And he says, the first one to do so, to blow up the other boat, that boat will live. And who's going to do it first? The innocent civilians or all the criminals? You choose, and you got to choose now, as the clock will be running out. And what I like about this, he's trying to show what people would do in situations like this, in desperate times. And now, this is all at night, and what I like about this is even though Joker's saying this, in my opinion, they actually got the detonator to their own boat. So if they turn it on, they'll blow themselves up. That's my opinion. But, you know, if it is the other way around, I don't think Joker would do this. He would do this, although he would probably try to prove a point how deep down everyone's exactly like him. It's nighttime now. They're surrounding the building, and they're noticing a whole bunch of Joker thugs at vantage points easy to take them out. They don't get this. This is too easy. Joker's up to something. Even Batman definitely knows how, like, you know, when it's Joker, nothing's ever this simple. And he asked for 5 minutes alone. Gordon, no, he's not gonna talk with Batman. He needs to get in there now and save Dent. But Batman goes in against Gordon's advice, or Gordon doesn't listen to Batman's advice, and he says, in 2 minutes, we breach. But he gets a call. Just as call, you know, with his wife on the line, only for it to reveal to be Dent, and saying, Dent, where's my family? Where my family died? And he basically hangs up, and Gordon's rushing to, well, where Rachel was killed, basically. Anyway, Batman gets into the building, and he takes out one of these supposed thugs. and he's using his sonar to track where the Joker is and a whole bunch of where the hostages are. But he notices something with the thugs. They are surprised. Their hands are taped to a gun, and they're weirdly mumbling and shaking. He then takes off a mask on one of the henchmen he just took out and realizes that the clowns are really the hostages, and the hostages are really Joker's men. Anyway, but the SWATs make their way in, and as Batman is going through the building, he is saving the hostages, taking out the thugs, and having to force into a situation to fight the cops as he's going through the whole situation. I loved the choreography here and the music, and this is intercut with what's happening on the boat. The civilians think that they need to blow it up. Well, the criminals on the boat want to blow it up now as the time's running out. The civilians want to blow. They need to discuss this as, these guys have had their chance. But eventually, the civilians take a vote and it votes to kill, but no one's willing to do the button. One civilian steps up and says he'll do it. As these criminals have chosen to murder and steal, they've made their choice. It doesn't make any sense. We need to die too. On the other boat, the guards are basically telling the convicts to back off. Now, even though Undertaker, the civilians want to blow up the other boat, are they taking into account there are decent, innocent civilians, such as guards doing their job? You will still be killing a bunch of innocent civilians. True, the death will be minimal with innocence to guilty, but still, you're still taking innocent lives, people doing their job. But what I like about this, just as this is being intercut, a criminal steps up and basically forces the guy in charge to hand the remote to him, saying how he'll do it, using his intimidation tactics. Anyway, but back in the other building, Batman makes his way up to Joker. And they have a great confrontation. First, Batman's attacked by dogs, but he takes him down. But then he's getting attacked by Joker, who's messing with his gear, with the sonar device. And I like how the sonar has this sort of detective vision mode. But this came out way before the Arkham games did, where the detective vision became pretty prominent. So I'm curious, did this inspire that? It probably did. Unless this game came out before this film, but no, it definitely came out. If I recall correctly, the game came out after this film. But, it's really great. And I also like how they have this design of when he's in detective mode, you can see a white, his eyes become white. Again, a reference to the comics, how most characters always have their eyes be white. Anyway, this then leads to, again, a great fight intertwined with what's happening on the boat. Joker then has Batman pinned down outside a window, and basically saying, "Oh, stop this, we're going to miss the fireworks." I love how they're fighting. Batman's more tactical. Joker's just going all random, all crazy, lunging with his limbs everywhere. Again, the fighting styles fits their characters' personalities. Anyway, they're watching the boat, and Joker's about to wait for the bombs to go off, but no one can do it. The convict who's given the remote throws it out the window, and basically he's going to accept all their deaths. And I like how very few convicts are up in protest. Some go along with it. And the innocent civilian, he couldn't go through with it. So he puts the detonator away. They look at the time, the bombs haven't gone off. And Joker's a bit angry. Angry or distressed about this. His plan went up in smoke. And I like how Batman says, What were you trying to prove? That everyone is exactly like you? You're alone. But Joker still has an ace. He gets the detonator out and he's basically going to blow up the boat. And then he is about to go into how I got these scars story. But Batman interrupts him and says, "No, but I know how you got these." And uses a trick to kick Joker out from the window. And as he's falling to his death, I like as he's falling, he's laughing as he does it. As in the very first Batman film in '89, when Joker's falling, he's screaming. For me, I love the change here because it fits the character better. But Batman managed to save him in time by firing a grapple that attaches to his leg, and he brings him back up safely. And Joker saying how they're destined to do this forever. Now, the last scene of Joker in this film, honestly, it is really great. With the character, unfortunately, it's been the last time these two characters would speak. And this is where I will take a moment to really reflect on Heath Ledger. So far throughout this film, he has given us a fantastic performance. Every scene he's in, he doesn't feel dull when he appears. And again, from when he sees in the bank, when he's in the mob scene, the interrogation, the action scenes, and when he was on 3 times, to the media where he, threatened to kill everyone until Batman turned himself in, to the Mike angle tonight, and to this third one, which I think I might have skipped out, where he's, saying how, the Gotham's his, and people who stay are going to play by his rules. If you want to get out now, but, there's going to be these bombs, essentially. Again, and just as, Batman thinks he's won, Joker's been taken down, Joker then says, until their spirit will break when Harvey Dent reveals what he's become. And Batman's basically going, what did you do? And basically he's implying he took the White Knight down to their level, and that, and it wasn't hard. As madness is like gravity, all you need is a little push, and all Ledger is doing is laughing his head off. And I think this is appropriate to be the final scene we see Joker laughing his head off as he's hanging in the air, in the madness and the chaos he's created. It's very much in character. Batman then leaves. Now, during this definitely scene where he's going through the henchmen, rescuing the hostages and taking on the cops, eventually the cops catch on that the clowns are really the hostages, and the doctors are to be their real targets. Anyway, but Batman leaves, and then the SWATs come to apprehend Joker. We then see Gordon go to where Rachel died, in the blown-up building that she was in. He makes his way in, only to be knocked out by Dent, or more accurately, Two-Face, and basically implies this ultimatum of, how Gordon, how broken and a vengeful man he's become. The White Knight is long gone, folks. This is Two-Face. And basically he's going to take as payback for blaming Gordon's crooked cops for taking the love of his life away and for being the real cause damage to this city. He's then going to kill the one he loves most. At first you think he's going to go for the wife, but then he goes for Gordon's son, as Gordon has 2 kids. And, Batman turns up saying, Harvey, you don't want to do this. But also Gordon's brought his cops who have made the perimeter around. And basically, Dent now has a new philosophy, how life is cruel, but the only thing fair in a cruel world is chance, 50-50. You guys are going to get the same shot that, fair chance that she did. But Batman's basically saying, basically implying don't let Joker win. What happened to Rachel wasn't a chance, we decided to act. And basically Dent's like, Joker chose me. And Batman says, yeah, because you're the best of us. He wanted to prove that someone as good as you can fall. And Two-Face basically goes, well, he was right. You're the one pointing the gun, Harvey. Point at the people responsible. Fair enough. You first. He flips the coin, it comes up bad sides, and shoots Batman in the gut. He then goes to point the gun to him. My turn. Flips the coin, catches, it comes up the good side. He then is about to go and kill the kid. And basically, Dent, as a cruel thing, forces Gordon to say, it's gonna be alright, son, before he's about to flip the coin. As he goes to flip it, Batman jumps, rescues the kid, but ultimately he and Dent fall to the side and basically fall. Now, yeah, Batman basically come out and basically kill Dent here. This is the bit that a little bit broke for me. Although I like to think, and I don't really see how I can get around this. I like to think he tackled, but overshot it because he's wounded, and they both fell, and so Dent dies by accident. It's a bit of people say it's anticlimactic, but I like how it's Batman just rushed in the moment here, being wounded, being severely hammered and hit. But this basically, no offense, he basically outright came and killed. In my mind, you can find a way to defend it, and I can just bend. But in my mind, he kind of just outright and killed Two-Face. Anyway, Gordon then manages to rescue his son, goes to check on the two, and just about to ready when Batman gets up and basically tells him not to. The two then look at their dead friend and realize Joker's won. Everything Dent worked for, the prosecutions, everything, it's gone. But Batman says, people can never know. We need to find a way to cover this up. And Dent goes, mate, 5 are dead. 2 of them are cops. You can't cover that up. So basically, Dent's killed 2 cops and basically 3 gangsters. But Batman then decides what Dent said earlier in the film. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Batman then decides to take the rap, to take the fall for Dent's killings. So that, and basically Harvey will become this fallen idol. He then tells Gordon to call it in. And basically, they managed to save Harvey's reputation and put the blame, not only the killings of the gangsters on, the two cops and the gangsters on Batman, but also Dent. Again, he did kind of kill Dent, although people can view it as, it was an accidental death. But then again, if you got a way to rationalize this, please do so in the comments, because I would really love to hear it. But in my mind, yeah. But basically, we end the film with Batman on his bike riding off just as the cops are chasing him. And Gordon has a talk with his son, saying how Batman's the hero Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now. So we'll hunt him because he can take it. He's a guardian, a watchful, a protector, the Dark Knight. And we end the film there. Arguably one of the greatest masterpieces, not only one of the greatest Batman films, but one of the greatest comic book films, period. And there we have The Dark Knight. Wow, a great masterpiece, great film. It's like a roller coaster. New things are constantly going. I love the engaging story, the great action sequences. The score feels so triumphant and up there, and great performances all around. Batman's story being developed. Oh, I also forgot one bit in the story. Alfred Burns' Bruce's letter. Well, the letter that Rachel gave to Bruce, covering up the secret, how Rachel chose the death of the fact that Rachel chose Dent over him, but also the bat signal got destroyed by Gordon to basically condemn Bruce and Batman, and how it's become a fallen owner. Forgot that, but let's get back. Just again, great film all around. Great score, great action sequence, and a really engaging and grateful story. I love the themes of chaos, insanity, and the Joker's philosophy of if you take down the law and the society's rules, and chaos to become your true self. Batman's story throughout this is incredibly engaging. Two-Face, I love how we got to spend time with Harvey, and his tragic fall from grace, is truly a tragedy to what happened to Harvey, as he was really Gotham's last hope. Also, Gordon having more of a role in the story, and him getting character developed. Again, will we get further really into the next one? But God, he's just really there. You can really tell these three were really going to take down organized crime. Again, supporting characters all around give great. I love the chemistry with Rachel and Dent over Rachel and Bruce, personally. And again, Dent's story is tragic, but of course, as much as we can praise everything with this film, with an engaging story, great action sequences, and just, great entertainment, let's talk about what really makes this film great, and that is Heath Ledger's Joker. For me, there's been no other comic book villain that, in my opinion, has overshadowed an entire film. Again, everything about this is great, but come on, Heath Ledger owned the role of the Joker and set a standard and reimagined the character that defied a generation and inspired many incarnations that followed in its wake. And it's even a tragedy as you find out what happened to him, an accidental overdose death, and died at a tragic age of 28. He was still young, just God. Again, and the quirks that he did, he was in character, he was frightening, he was scary, but he had, in a strange way, logic. Now, you can point out if he's supposed to do things random, then why is everything so planned out? For me, Joker, he'll say one thing and mean another. That's always been Joker for me. And of course, the design. I love the design. It's a great reimagining, but still staying true to the character and fits this realistic world. Joker's a terrorist in this film, not a homicidal maniac. He's just a deranged terrorist, just doing whatever he wants. And again, a great performance. I love Bruce's story throughout the whole thing. I love the improved bat suit. The bat pod is a great design of the bat bike. And again, Two-Face's design with the burnt scar. What more can I say about this film without repeating myself? Everyone did a fantastic job here. Now, people have pointed out that the third act, when Joker's riding off into the sunset, that third act could have been a whole film itself. And yeah, I agree, that could have actually worked for a third half. Especially with the two boats, you could have easily imagined Joker on the run and Harvey becoming Two-Face. And as much as I feel that is a missed opportunity to have that as a film, I can't deny that even with that, it still works immensely well. And again, I love even though this is a long film, this is a very long film, even for a movie review, because I definitely think we're going to be at least just under the 2 hour mark just talking about it. It's just a roller coaster of a ride. I never feel bored with it. I am engrossed every time I'm watching it, especially rewatching it for this review. Great performances all around. Again, I can't recommend this film enough. If you're a person who likes your film serious, but still wants to understand or explore a comic book film, I give it this one. Because again, the Nolan trilogy, Dark Knight trilogy, is meant to be comic book films, but realism. And as much as I love Batman Begins, and I do think you should start with that first if you want to start this trilogy, but if you're a newcomer, give this film a watch. This is a great one to start off with if you want to get into the comic book genre. But, it's a great masterpiece. And even to this day, people still talk about it, and there's a reason why. It is a great all-around, but most importantly, it was a great film for Heath Ledger to go out on, and giving us one of the great performances of his career, and we were given one of the greatest Batman films of all time. Not my personal favorite, but for a long time it was, before the Batman surpassed it. But for a long while this was, and it's easy to see why. The Dark Knight, it's more than 5 stars. It's 2 thumbs up, shouting, hell yeah, give this a watch. Give it a watch, folks. You will not be disappointed, and you will be engrossed in this world and the themes and the characters. Give it a watch. And there we have it. That was The Dark Knight, an absolute still masterpiece and a great example of great comic book filmmaking come to life. The film was released in 2008 and was one of the first comic book films to make over $1 billion at the box office, with huge critical reception. But unfortunately, unfortunately, the film, of course, is the last of Heath Ledger in acting in general. He gave such a great performance. In fact, his Joker is often talked about, and there's always new things to discover with this Joker. People are always dissecting and revealing about it. But good news is, his performance was absolutely Oscar-worthy. Actually, he won an Oscar posthumously for his role of the Joker. Arguably well-deserved. People say if he didn't die, would he still have won it? I like to think he would have, because honestly, it was a great performance nonetheless. Absolutely well-deserved. But this also gave the problems with the creative team, because they didn't know how to follow this up, and was even rumors of not even completing the trilogy without Heath Ledger. Christopher Nolan didn't have it in him, but he did, and eventually did follow up the trilogy with 2012's The Dark Knight Rises. So I can't wait to reveal that film and give my own personal thoughts on the matter. But until next time, this has been the Steven Hour, and tune in for the final episode of the Dark Knight trilogy in this Batman film review series. Don't worry, there's more Batman films to cover. But until next time, this has been the Steven Hour. Ladies and gentlemen, so long for now.